On the 11th of March 2011, a devastating earthquake occurred in Japan and lasted for approximately 6 minutes, devastating the Tohoku region. With a magnitude of around 9, it is the most powerful recorded earthquake in the history of Japan. Around 20,000 people were estimated to have lost their lives, and to date, over 200,000 people had to leave the region due to damage. Furthermore, the Fukushima nuclear plant began to emit radiation into the surrounding area due to flooding. It was a national tragedy, with the aftermath devastating the Japanese economy as it mourned. The country desperately needed a lift. In the summer of 2011, the Women's World Cup took place in Germany. The USA were the strong favourites, with Japan going in as massive underdogs. It was going to be some task if Japan were to win the World Cup to dry the tears they had cried in the previous months. This is a story of the 2011 World Cup, a Japanese fairy tale. Norio Sasaki's Japan would travel to Germany for the World Cup, having never previously made it out of the group stages. Whilst not expected to go far, the recent tragedy motivated the Japanese side to do their nation proud, with journalist Shunsuke Ono stating, "The 2011 World Cup gave us great courage, especially for the people enduring difficult times because of the disaster. I believe that many people were encouraged by watching the World Cup. I think it brought a bright light because their life was afflicted by pain. It was great to make the Japanese people happy." The world was expecting the USA team to take home the trophy for the third time. Japan, meanwhile, were drawn in the group alongside England, New Zealand and Mexico. Japan started off excellently, with goals from Yuki Nagasoto and Aya Miyama sealing a 2-1 win over New Zealand and putting them in excellent position to progress for the first time. Japan sealed their spot in the knockout stages with a 4-0 win over Mexico, thanks to a hat-trick from Hamare Sawa and a goal from Shinobu Ono. A 2-0 defeat to England in their final game saw the English take top spot in the group, but it mattered little, with the Japanese delighted to finally make the knockout round. Japan would face a true test in the knockout stages. They would be up against the hosts, Germany. The Germans had won the European Championships 5 years in a row and had also won the past 2 World Cups. Understandably, they were amongst the favourites. Japan, against the odds, held out the Germans for the 90 minutes, and the match would enter extra time. With the match looking set to go to penalties, Karina Maruyama fired the ball into the net from a tight angle in the 108th minute. Japan stunned the world, knocking out a force to be reckoned with, and it would face Sweden in the semi-finals. Sweden took the lead in Frankfurt after 10 minutes, but Japan were unfazed. 9 minutes later, Nahami Kawasumi headed in an equaliser. The teams went in level at half-time. On the 60th minute, a header from Hamare Sawa put Japan in front, and 4 minutes later, Kawasumi got her second. It was enough for the Japanese, who sealed their place in the World Cup final for the first ever time. It was a chance for the Japanese to make history, but it was to be no easy task. They would be up against the USA. The USA had won the tournament twice before, and they had never finished lower than 3rd place in the World Cup. They boasted the likes of Hope Solo, Christy Rampone, Carly Lloyd, Megan Rapinoe, Abby Wambach and Alex Morgan. Nobody was expecting Japan to win. Japan returned to the Volt Stadium in Frankfurt in front of a crowd of 48,000. The anthems were played, and it was time for Japan to try and perform a miracle. For the first 20 minutes, the Americans attempted to fulfill what was expected of them, bombarding the Japanese with pressure, but they couldn't find the net. Abby Wambach would hit the crossbar in the 28th minute, leaving the Japanese with their hearts in their mouths. Japan had a couple of nominal chances, but they amounted to nothing. Neither side could find a breakthrough, and the teams went in at half-time, level at 0-0. Alex Morgan was brought on for the Americans at the start of the second half, and the US domination continued. Morgan hit the post in the second half, but soon the Japanese created chances of their own, but they couldn't make them count. In the 69th minute, Megan Rapinoe played the long ball forwards. Alex Morgan chased it and shrugged off Saki Komagi. She fired the ball beyond Ayumi Kaihori and into the bottom corner. The USA were in front. Japan did not let the goal get them down and tried to counter the US. In the 81st minute, a defensive mix-up from the Americans left the ball loose in the box and Aya Miyama pounced to poke the ball past Hope Solo and into the net. Japan were level. Japan had upset the odds to hold the Americans out, and the game would go into extra time. Japan improved in the extra period, but were focused on playing defensively to keep the Americans out. However, shortly before half-time in extra time, Alex Morgan played the ball across the box, and it was headed in by Abby Wambach. America were back in front. Japan looked exhausted as the game entered the home stretch, and the Americans looked to be on course for the title of world champions. But Japan, whilst exhausted, were not out of it yet. In the 117th minute, Japan had a corner. It was swung into the box and flicked on by Homare Sawa. It was deflected and found its way into the net. Japan had levelled again, and the game would go to penalties. Azusa Iwashimizu was sent off moments before the final whistle, but Japan remained confident. America would kick first. Shannon Box would step up to take the first penalty. She aimed for the corner, but Kaihori tipped it onto the post. Aya Miyama took Japan's first and aimed for the corner. Hope Solo's poor positioning allowed it to go straight into the net. Japan had the lead. Carly Lloyd stepped up next for America, but she fired her shot over the bar. The score remained 1-0. Yuki Nagasoto stepped up next for Japan, but her penalty was saved by Hope Solo. America had a chance to level it when Tobin Heath stepped up. She aimed for the bottom corner, but Kaihori was there to save Japan again. It was kept out, and America had missed their third penalty. Japan had the chance to double their lead. Mizuho Sakaguchi stepped up and placed the ball into the bottom corner. It trickled past Hope Solo and into the net. Japan were 2-0 up. Abby Wambach stepped up for America, knowing she had to score. She neatly tucked it into the bottom corner, keeping America just in the game. Defender Saki Kumagi would step up to take Japan's fourth penalty. If she scored, she would make history for Japan and win them the World Cup. After a lengthy run-up, she fired the ball into the top corner. Japan had won the World Cup. The players joined together in delirious celebration. They had won the World Cup against all the odds, shocking perhaps the best team in the world to avenge all those who had lost their lives in the earthquakes of March that year. Japan returned home, and the entire team was given the People's Honour Award. It was only the 17th time this award had been given since 1977. The Japan team had found the perfect way to put a smile on the face of its wounded nation. A team that had never even advanced past the group stages became world champions, a scenario nobody would have expected, and the joy that it brought to the people of Japan proves that football is so much more than just a game.